Oh, honey, I got some news for you.
Do you have some advice for the non-scientists out there, or the ones that are not maybe stop taking science in high school, and if they're just scrolling on social media, TikTok, YouTube, and they see some sort of slick sounding YouTube science, some title that's like making some kind of scientific claim.
Sure.
What's like the red flags like they need to look out for here?
I mean,
That was important.
the first red flag is any kind of like everything we know about science is wrong, everything we knew about physics is wrong, everything blah 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 is wrong because this one thing I'm showing you. That
So we're talking about new information repression, or like not repression, but like not a lot, not just don't be fooled by something that obviously, like,
has happened pretty much 0 times.
yeah. And so if you have a claim like that where it's like, oh yeah, this thing that we thought was, well, actually, you know what? When we had the discoveries of heat and everything else, eventually we ended up thinking, um, it's not that all science is wrong. Every bit of science has been incorrect and been updated all the time. Every little bit of it has been updated all the time. I don't see why you wouldn't be able to say all of science is wrong and actually be right at some point, because of we have had preconceptions of the orbit of the planets, and then we found out it's not a circle, it's an ellipse. We found out that it's not a ellipse, it's also a wobbly ellipse. And we we keep on updating our models. So we also find out that like heat is just moving energy, moving molecules and atoms. The faster they move, the more energy they have. So it says, and the particles and everything.
In the history of science, I mean, maybe in the 1600s or something, but that's not going to ever be true. That's not going to be true that one thing is going to make all of physics wrong, because physics is right. We know because we use it to create technology that works, so physics is right.
We do have a lot of the information understood, but then we have this whole preconception about dark matter. I'm very sorry to anyone researching dark matter, you're not gonna find it. Do you like that any better?
We can amend certain details and expand into new areas of understanding.
Yeah.
But that kind of hyper sensationalist language, rhetoric, is.
So pick one topic and say it's correct to think about it this way, and then considering like just the language of how you say will make it more or less likely that your information will be received, because people are not going to look into it. So you either just say it's correct this way, or you say, hey, guess what? Everyone who's been looking at this situation, like the double slit experiment, they all have been stupid. Every one of them. Which is, I said directly to them. The EM field is what makes the interference pattern, not the electron. And you know what? I don't care how much backlash I get, and I don't care how much you don't want to hear it, or how you think everyone in science is wrong is a thing that you can't say, which
Is your primary red flag. And it's clickbait. It goes beyond simple clickbait. It started as clickbait. I think that kind of approach was like, hey, the urgency created by this will make people click on it. But it is
time dilation is also a hoax.
transferred over into fueling science denial, because
You should be using sound in your uh, reactors.
impression that people get is that, oh,
You can move faster than light.
it's very very easy and regularly happen.
Would I say all of science is wrong? Obviously, we know how to make snowflakes, so that can't be wrong. But there are a lot of things that we can say that are wrong, or misleading, or misunderstood that we still have yet to understand, and there's perfectly fine to understand all of it. What?
That all of science becomes wrong. So, number one, I don't have to learn it because it'll all be wrong tomorrow. I can just look at the latest TikTok and that'll be, replaces all of physics. But yeah, that would be the primary red flag. And then
There's a lot of things that, because we have the machines that work under the functions that we understand, even if the language is possibly incorrect and the ideas of it all are incorrect, it leads to the Schrodinger equation, which allows for the potential of some understanding, but it's an incomplete system. And therefore, yeah, you still need a more complete system to give all the information properly.
general, anyone who disparages the entire scientific community as...
You mean everyone who's talked about the double slit experiment, every one of them gets an F. They never say the EM field. Every one of them that I have ever heard. That is not everyone, but everyone I've ever heard has not talked about the EM field in regards to the double slit experiment. That's called negligence. On a grand scale, the high science communicators, the low ones, everyone in between has made this mistake. I don't care about this guy saying
You can't do that. Once
because you totally can, because it's totally possible. Not only is it that every science communicator and scientist who has ever talked about the double slit experiment, I'm talking about just not even the people journalizing, actual scientists believing that particles like photons or electrons are wavy. You have to understand that electrons have the EM field that they push around. Not even referencing that in your double slit experiment explanation is just flat out children's forgetting half the book that they read.
scientist could be a fraud. That is absolutely true. And you could have a video that says this scientist is a fraud, and it may or may not have legitimacy.
I like Bill Nye, okay? You have to look into my face right now. I love Bill Nye. Okay? He's great. He did great. He was great when I was a kid. He's great now. What he did wrong, when he talked about I swear to God, I remember a video where he talked about the Stirling engine. And he said that when you power it with cold, it went in the opposite direction for some reason, as if cold means counterclockwise. There is no correlation between the piston going up and down and the wheel spinning and the type of force that is applying to make the pressure difference in your vessel. Okay? The force makes the up and down. The up and down is translated into the wheel. The wheel's initial spin condition is what makes it continue in that direction. So I'm sorry, Bill Nye, you had a mistake, and I called you out on it, and it's just reality, and you haven't made a retraction video, and I don't really care, because you were just speaking on what everyone else either observed or knew about even something that we've had for over 100 years. Does that mean all science communicators and scientists have been wrong about Stirling engines, the first engine? I saw Let me show you this. This is stupid. Can I shrink things? The first engine.
See that? No, over there. Yeah, that. That's the only surviving example of the world's first motor built by the cell.
Electric motor. We've got steam engines far beyond electric. So the idea of magnets being able to be used to make engines and this whole thing with its rotating doodad, it's neat, it's cool. It's still not a steam engine, it's still not a Stirling engine, and also electricity is the new buzz and stuff.
The center of the dish, where the current then flows back along the wire to the battery. Applying our right-hand rule to the mercury, we have current flowing left and the magnetic field pointing down, so the mercury experiences a force causing it to swirl clockwise.
So he can be right about this, and that is all true. So it's not that everyone is wrong about it, it's that, or everyone's wrong about all science. That's a crazy claim that I don't, but you have to understand, when I hear stuff like, don't listen to the new person's information about science if they're saying, everyone's been wrong about this. Let me explain. Yeah, you're just going to keep yourself in the dark ages for a few decades with that. But just you. There are other people who are smart enough to actually listen and not care about
Higher scientific community as a whole. You can't do that. One scientist could be a fraud. That is absolutely true. And you could have...
Everyone says you can't go faster than the speed of light, but have they considered a vortex engine? Have you even thought about pulling yourself forward through space instead of pushing? New concept. Is everyone wrong? Unless they've considered a vortex engine or some kind of pulling engine, everyone is missing a factoid of life. Which is like, it's possible. Right?
Video that says this scientist is a fraud, and it may or may not have legitimacy.
And it's not that Neil deGrasse Tyson is a complete fraud. It's that he has been cited to say things stupidly sometimes. Sometimes. All his old stuff is riddled with it. All of his new stuff has little bits here and there. I have made mistakes. I'll admit that. And the thing is, I always look at all the stuff that I've had, and I've wondered if I've made mistakes about time dilation, which is why I have said I'm still working on it. Because, like, I could just spend today and look through all the different equation stuff that it takes to understand why a clock would gain or lose nanoseconds based on its speed, and my initial findings are the bounces take more or less time depending on how fast that atomic clock in a satellite or on a plane, on a train, whatever it's doing, those atomic clocks will have lost or gained time depending on their total speed, which in the case of the 70s, they literally had an 8-day trip and they lost like 200 nanoseconds. So a very tiny amount, but noticeable amount, and it was like quad checked because they had 4 different atomic clocks on the plane. So it is accurate that all of them experience the same. It makes sense that all of them would experience the same thing because all of them are having the different bounce ratio. because of the speed. Light is consistent. The whole system is consistent. It would be nice if you had subatomic clocks with the light going up and down, the light going side to side, the light going, you know, different orientations of the light, so that you can say, well, in this orientation, that orientation, that orientation, but we have like maybe two that are going in a basic direction, which is with the travel of the object as a whole. Because if you have to calculate for the vertical or side to side, which is the same difference, vertical and side to side are just anything other than the forward direction of travel. Or diagonal. Diagonal is fun. Because it gets real weird when you actually use complete diagonals. But like, these things are all stuff that should have been understood, would have been understood, and I'm not saying that they didn't. I'm trying to confirm in my own head that they got the numbers right, because I think that they got some ideas about it wrong, like how just in the forward-backward direction, going with the light facing the same direction as the moving object, in this case the plane, again, when you're going along with the rotation of the Earth, you're increasing the speed or travel time. The travel time wouldn't make any difference. It's the speed that you're changing, right? Well, obviously you can't. But anyhow, if you travel in the opposite direction, opposite the rotation of the Earth, you end up lowering your travel time or your total speed, because you're not going as far a distance in the same amount of time. Why is that? It's the same analogous, well, it's similar analogy to going backwards on a train. If the train's going 45 and you're going 5, your total speed is still 40 in that direction, even though you're personally moving that way. So that's how we do the math on this. However, you got to remember that the Earth's rotating on a tilt, so it's not perfect. So when you're going and referring to an object moving through space, depending on like where you are on the orbit of the planet or the rotation of the planet, like let's say that it's a rotating ball on a tilt and you're on the lower end of it, right? Then your momentum is directed mostly in a straight line. But if you start on like the other edge of the curve, I should say, like, how do you really put it? It's like, I have a bowl here. Okay, so if you end up on like, I can't direct you without putting like on something. So if you start here instead of down here, here is a different amount of motion through space and time. Here you're still moving mostly flat. Here you're moving with a vertical component and a horizontal component. That makes sense? So, and if you do the same thing and you're on the opposite side of the planet and the rotation speed and everything else, you're moving on the downward curve that's also diagonal. You got to consider all of those components. And what if it is this way and what happened? I didn't push the button.